Hey guys, welcome back to the Bargain Collector. Come on in, grab a drink, kick your feet up, and hit the like. I was driving down, what street is that? I can't think of the street. Anyway, I'm driving down the street, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a place that says DVDs for sale. I heard a screeching of tires, right? I heard it. And then I realized, oh, that's me. I had, I had stopped the car and I pull over into a parking space really quick. I hop out and I beeline it straight to the store. And I open the store and it's like a Pee-wee Blockbuster. Okay. Very small, not, it's a very quaint, video store. However, every movie is in there for sale. And I asked the gentleman, I said, how much for the movies? Because I could see clearly that there were DVDs, but then there was a small little section where there were Blu-rays. And I said, how much are the movies? And he said, it's $2 for a DVD. Okay. But what if I want a Blu-ray? He says, yeah. I said, it's $2 because and granted, he's a much older gentleman than myself, so for him a Blu-ray is a DVD. So everything in the store is only $2. I went nuts. I'm only going to talk about two today, because I usually try to look at how many movies I can review by the time it's time to do another video, and so I've pretty much gauged I can do about 2 a week. One of them I feel really bad about because it's a movie that I've been wanting to see for so long, and it actually stars a good buddy of mine. I I just haven't gotten around to watching it, and it's sad because this is one of his movies that went to the movie theaters, and as a filmmaker, myself, I feel bad. Shame on me, shame on me. But I found this movie that I've been waiting to see, and I'm so glad that I can watch it on physical media now. It was The Art of Self-Defense. This one stars Jesse Eisenberg, Alessandro Nivola, and Imogen Poots. My buddy is Philip Andre Botello. He stars in this film. He also starred in a film of mine, which is called Yesterday is Almost Here, which we are putting together a Blu-ray release for that as well. So I'll let you guys know about that. But yeah, an instant offbeat comedy classic. And I believe it. I believe it. I've seen the trailers. I've seen a lot of clips from the film, and it looks hilarious. And it looks like my style of comedy. I'm not a big slapstick comedy kind of guy. I'm more kind of deadpan where it looks serious. You can't tell if the person's joking or not. I like that kind of stuff. So, and it looks very much like that. Strikingly original. And it came with the slipcover. Same artwork on the inside. Let me open this up. Yeah. Just a Blu-ray disc on the inside. There's not it's just a Blu-ray. Would have been a digital code, but certain that guy's already taken it. But still, it's great to have it on Blu-ray. It's something I've been waiting to see, so I get a chance to check it out. Comes with bonus features, an important message from Sensei. And then it has cast and crew interviews. I hope that my buddy got a chance to do an interview on here because that would be kind of cool. That would be really cool. So the synopsis for it is Casey, played by Jesse Eisenberg, just can't seem to win. Attacked on the street, humiliated at his job, and even emasculated by his dog, he joins a local karate dojo led by the enigmatic Sensei, played by Alessandro Nivola, to learn how to defend himself. In the midst of his training, Casey becomes friendly with a female instructor, Imogen Poots, and soon realizes he is caught in a bizarre world of outcasts, fraternal rituals, and hilarious hypermasculinity. Already. I was intrigued to watch it already, but I'm definitely excited to watch this one. And the next film is one that it went to the theaters, and I think it was one of the movies where I completely meant to go see it and just never did. And I mean, it has Samuel Jackson, Richard Roundtree, and Jesse T. Usher. What am I talking about? I'm just talking about Shaft, right? I so meant to see. I read a quote that somebody said, and I'm waiting to see how true this is. Somebody said that, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but they said this is the blackest movie they've ever seen. Ah! They said this is the blackest movie they've ever seen. And I want to see what that means. I want to see what that means. I heard it was great. I heard it was funny. I heard it was action packed. I saw the original remake that Samuel L. Jackson did before this, where it was him against Peoples and all that stuff. Jeffrey Wright, right? Jeffrey Wright. I saw that, and I thought that one was pretty good. They said this one is so much better. So I'm really anxious to see this one and see what that's all about, what that comment was all about. It says Shaft is the funniest action movie of the year. All right. I I mean, if they say so, I just want to see. I just want to see. So those are the two that I picked up. The Art of Self-Defense and Shaft. As you could see, it's the slipcover looks super nice, hardly any shelf wear at all. Right? Same with The Art of Self-Defense. They're both in great condition. Have you guys seen Shaft? Have you seen it? Can you, if you have seen it, please put down in the comments how good or bad it was, so I know what I'm walking into, as well as The Art of Self-Defense. Have you seen it? If you have, what'd you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I just need to see if they are entertaining and rewatchable. And then I will know if they will be added to my very limited library or released into the wild. So I'll watch those and get back to you guys shortly. In the meantime, keep finding good films at great prices.